In the heart of a bustling city, there lies a subway station that serves as a lifeline for commuters. This St. Giovanni's subway station is known for its faded tiles and flickering lights. It is a place where stories intertwine and random encounters happen every day. However, on a chilling night in November, this everyday scene transformed into a crime scene. The air was tense and heavy as the cold wind howled through the station, and the neon lights cast long shadows on the platform. The clock struck midnight, and the usual noise was suddenly cut short. The victim in this case was a young woman named Janine Morales. She was just 23 years old, with bright eyes and a passion for art. Janine worked at a nearby gallery and loved taking the subway home after late openings. That night, she left work around 11, intending to catch the last train. But she never made it. Janine was found lying on the cold platform, her life taken away too soon. The discovery was made by a train guard who was making his usual rounds. He stumbled upon the scene while checking for passengers who needed help. The silence was thick, and the guard's heart raced as he called for emergency services. He felt a mix of horror and disbelief. News spread quickly throughout the station. Commuters and staff gathered, their faces painted with shock and fear. Some covered their mouths in disbelief. Others whispered in small groups, trying to make sense of what had happened. Many wondered how a crime could occur in such a public place, where people are always moving. The police arrived soon after, cordoning off the area and questioning witnesses. Officers worked quickly but carefully, gathering evidence and trying to piece together the events leading up to Janine's tragic end. Initial investigations began to shed some light. Detectives reported that Janine was last seen getting off the train at the station. Her route was well known, and she had traveled it thousands of times. It puzzled everyone. Who would want to harm Janine? Theories began to swirl among the community. Some believed it might be an accident, a random act of violence that could have happened to anyone. Others felt it was more serious, suggesting a targeted attack with unknown motives. Each thought created a sense of urgency and unease. What happened that night and why? No one felt safe as they boarded the next train, peering over their shoulders for any sign of trouble. The police investigators took a close look at the security footage from the station. They sought to capture any clue that would lead to answers. They focused on every passerby, looking for gray areas in the shadows cast by the dim lights. They hoped to find something important that might reveal the truth. As more evidence was gathered, the atmosphere around the station grew heavier. Community members felt a shared grief for Janine, mourning the loss of a life filled with hope and dreams. Whispers filled the air, many waiting for answers while the investigation unfolded. This is a stark reminder of the realities of crime, the hidden dangers in what seems like an ordinary place. It demonstrates how life can change in an instant, leaving friends and family searching for closure. In this dark chapter, unanswered questions mingle with the pain of loss, making the story both unsettling and deeply poignant. The investigation into Janine Morales' tragic death began quickly. Law enforcement arrived in numbers. Detectives moved with purpose, determined to find answers. They assessed the crime scene carefully, making sure they did not overlook any details. The air was thick with urgency as investigators spoke to witnesses present that fateful night. Some people did not see much, while others offered bits of important information, trying to help as best they could. Collecting evidence was a top priority. Forensic specialists examined the area closely. They searched for any clues that might reveal the truth. Collecting fingerprints, DNA, and other important details often takes hours or even days. Every tiny piece of evidence was crucial in understanding what happened to Janine. Meanwhile, detectives reviewed security camera footage from the subway station. They hoped to find anyone behaving oddly. As the footage played, their eyes moved quickly, searching for signs of anything unusual. Around midnight, several people could be seen coming and going. They noticed a man who lingered too long and acted nervous. He glanced around as if he was watching someone or hiding something. This man soon became a person of interest. Investigators used his strange behavior to follow a lead. The detectives also learned about Janine's life. Friends and family were questioned to see if anyone felt threatened. Did she have a conflict with someone? Did she mention feeling unsafe? Little details can paint a clearer picture. When detectives spoke to her coworkers, they learned Janine was easy to get along with and loved her job. However, one coworker claimed Janine was sometimes nervous on the subway after late shifts. These statements raised questions about Janine's safety while commuting. Another crucial step in the investigation was looking for missing persons. Detectives studied reports of people with unknown whereabouts. They wanted to know if anyone had gone missing around the same time as Janine's death. This could indicate a deeper problem in the city. It also forced them to consider whether this crime was connected to something bigger. While gathering evidence, detectives noticed one significant thing. Many families were scared. Everyone was talking about the killing and asking what could happen next. Social media buzzed with fear, and the police posted messages. They encouraged anyone with information to come forward. These messages aimed to calm the public while assuring them they were actively working on the case. Building a strong relationship with the community was critical. It created a sense of trust, allowing people to feel involved and cared about. As concerns grew, investigators noticed a change in the public's mood. Janine's case was not only personal, it affected everyone who rode the subway. New questions bubbled up. Could the killer strike again? Was anyone else in danger? Each unanswered question added pressure to the detectives, pushing them to work harder and faster. These early steps in the investigation showed hope. Every small piece of information collected helped create a path forward. The quest for justice continued, driving the police and the community closer. People wanted answers, and the law enforcement officers were determined to find them. With each passing day, all eyes were on the case, eager for developments, leading everyone to wonder what the next steps would reveal. As detectives continued their investigation into Janine Morales' death, they began to uncover hidden clues. They explored connections to previous incidents in the area. A few months earlier, another young woman had gone missing nearby. This didn't seem like a coincidence. Investigators dug deeper into local police records. They found similar cases of young women disappearing near the subway. Each incident had its unique details, but disturbing patterns began emerging. The detectives wondered if a pattern might exist that could link these cases. They also examined whether Janine had experienced any strange encounters. Some of her friends recalled moments when Janine mentioned a man on the subway who seemed to watch her. She had brushed it off at the time, calling it paranoia. However, this led investigators to consider that Janine could have been targeted. They looked into reports from the community, hoping to find anyone who may have noticed a suspicious man around the subway over the past few months. While they carefully followed these new leads, complicating factors began to surface. Some witnesses were not as reliable as the detectives had hoped. One witness claimed to see a man running away that night, but another person insisted they had seen a woman in a red coat near the scene. Conflicting reports created confusion and frustration for investigators. Detectives urged people to provide clear information, but many were either too scared or unable to remember exact details during the chaos that night. The media picked up on Janine's case, causing a rush of attention. News outlets reported regular updates, focusing on the horror and mystery. While this could help keep the public informed, it also added pressure to the police. Reporters wanted interviews, and gossip flourished in the community. Rumors flew, and speculation about the identity of the killer was rampant. Some people talked loudly, while others made assumptions based on little evidence. This media circus made solid investigation harder. In the face of all this, detectives remained diligent. They were aware that public attention can shift and distort justice. They decided to focus on facts, carefully verifying every piece of information collected. The scrutiny only made them more determined. Filtering out noise from the media buzz was key to a successful investigation. They made it clear to the public that they would not rush conclusions or ignore important data. Meanwhile, false leads kept cropping up. Alerts came in from people claiming to know the killer. Many were only seeking attention. Frustratingly, they wasted valuable time and resources. Each false lead pushed back progress. With detectives trying to sift through the chaos, they knew they needed to remain strong and patient. Justice for Janine required thorough and careful work. Then, the investigation turned once again as a local detective noticed an overlooked piece of evidence. A discarded item found near the platform a few days after the crime suddenly took on new importance. It had not been connected to Janine's case before, but it sparked curiosity. Investigators quickly began to evaluate whether it could be a significant clue. This reminded them that in investigations, even the smallest detail can be important. Every piece pieced together could lead to the truth. Every moment of doubt only fueled their resolve to uncover Janine's story, ensuring her voice would not be silenced or lost amid uncertainty. The stakes were high, and following these revelations began to shape the investigation into new, unexpected paths. The journey for justice was tough, but everyone involved knew they needed to keep moving forward. The city waited, and hope hung in the air. As the weeks passed in the investigation of Janine Morales' death, a vital breakthrough finally occurred. Forensic specialists had been working tirelessly to process DNA evidence recovered from the crime scene. While it took time, they remained hopeful that this testing would lead to important answers. One day, the lab called the detectives with exciting news. They discovered DNA that matched a man already on record. This individual had a history of minor offenses, but had never been connected to any serious crime. The detectives felt a mix of anticipation and caution. They knew this could change everything. Following up on this lead, investigators quickly pulled the man's file. His name was Giovanni King, a bit older than Janine, but with a disturbing background. He had lived in the city for years and had a reputation for troubling behavior. Neighbors described him as quiet but distant. Some had noted his strange habits, particularly his interest in young women. This revelation painted a chilling picture. They wondered if Giovanni had ever seen Janine in the subway before, or even stalked her. As the detectives dug deeper, they learned unsettling details about Giovanni's life. He had interacted with women before in uncomfortable ways, often making them feel uneasy. Soon, investigators decided it was important to reach out to past acquaintances. They suspected there might be a pattern of troubling behavior linked to him. Detectives expressed caution, ensuring they would approach this development respectfully while uncovering the truth. Meanwhile, as they prepared to confront Giovanni, another surprise came their way. A vital witness contacted the police. This person had been scared to come forward earlier, but felt compelled to speak up. The witness had seen Giovanni near the subway the night of Janine's death. This crucial information linked him directly to the crime scene. Investigators recognized that this turned the entire investigation on its head. What once seemed like various possibilities now focused on Giovanni as a key suspect. The day of confrontation arrived, and the mood among the detectives was tense but resolute. They prepared carefully for the arrest, understanding each moment mattered greatly. They gathered outside Giovanni's home, planning to monitor his movements to catch him at the right time. Law enforcement approached the home methodically, staying alert for any sudden movements. They did not want to create chaos. As they approached, time seemed to slow. Suddenly, Giovanni walked out, holding a coffee in one hand and looking around in a relaxed manner. Detectives sensed this was the moment. They carefully flagged him down, clearly stating who they were and why they were there. Giovanni's expression changed quickly from calmness to panic. The arrest unfolded swiftly and dramatically. Giovanni attempted to turn and run back inside. Without hesitation, officers followed him inside, tackling him to the ground before he could reach for anything. The chaos shocked onlookers nearby, who soon gathered to see what was happening. The drama unfolded quickly, yet within the storm of emotions, there was urgency and a mission to seek justice. As they restrained him in handcuffs, detectives found a pressing need to understand his connection to Janine. What exact motives lay behind the crime? Questions buzzed in their minds, while others sought clarity on the shocking twist just unveiled. With both the evidence and witness testimony leading to Giovanni, everything now pointed to a need for answers. The arrest marked a pivotal moment for the investigation. It set in motion a strong focus on Giovanni King's role in Janine's life and her untimely death. Justice for Janine was nearer, yet the story had much more to unfold as everyone sought the final resolution to this harrowing case. After Giovanni King's arrest, the tension in the interrogation room was palpable. Detectives believed that now they could finally glean the truth about what happened to Janine Morales. They hoped to understand Giovanni's mindset and reasoning. The officer started by asking him simple questions, focusing on his whereabouts that night. At first, Giovanni responded with confusion, trying to present an innocent front. He claimed he knew nothing about Janine and her death. His calmness seemed forced, and detectives noticed subtle signs of stress in his body language. As questions continued, Giovanni's facade began to crack. He appeared unable to maintain his confident demeanor, often shifting in his seat or wiping sweat from his brow. It was clear he felt the pressure mounting. Under this strain, he occasionally shot defensive responses, denying any wrongdoing. When detectives pushed harder, asking him about the DNA found at the scene, Giovanni fell silent, and his eyes grew wide. One of the detectives took a moment to let the silence linger. They wanted Giovanni to feel uneasy, hoping it would provoke him to speak more. As the pressure built, Giovanni finally began to talk. He made excuses, but also dropped hints that led detectives to suspect otherwise. There were signs of manipulation in his language, twisting the narrative to suggest he was being set up. He repeatedly suggested that the police had made a mistake. Even as he denied any involvement, Giovanni's expressions told another story. He fidgeted with his hands and looked away frequently. His breathing turned shallow, especially when detectives mentioned evidence directly linking him to Janine's murder. Deep down, Giovanni knew that the case was piling up against him. His attempts to shift blame only intensified the tension in the room. A web of lies was beginning to unravel. Detectives built on this strategy. They hinted at knowing more than they were revealing. "We have people ready to testify against you," they said, even though they did not, aiming to provoke a reaction. Surprisingly, Giovanni's manipulation turned more intense. He began to make insinuations about Janine, attempting to cast doubt on her character. "She knew the risk of taking the subway at night," he said, as if to suggest her decisions warranted what happened to her. This cruel statement left detectives shocked. How could someone speak that way about a victim? Giovanni's self-preservation instinct shone through his answers. Instead of confessing, he continually attempted to paint himself as a victim of circumstance. His reasoning was strained, but it reflected a desperate mind trying to cope. He maintained that he had no ill will toward Janine and claimed unforeseen events spiraled out of control. But his denials felt hollow against the escalating evidence. As the questioning continued, it became evident how Giovanni operated under pressure. Rather than confessing to the crime or showing remorse, he focused on defending himself. He was more interested in crafting a narrative that would paint him as innocent while attempting to distract investigators. The confrontation shifted as it revealed both a darker side of human nature and the lengths to which some would go to evade responsibility. Detectives shared this moment with him, noting the emotional responses each denial seemed to trigger. They recognized that the heart of the investigation did not lie in just catching a suspect, but in understanding the depths of deception that can accompany actions like Giovanni's. His fragile psyche exposed itself amidst chaotic emotions. The pressure filled the air thick with tension as detectives prepared to confront Giovanni again. They had a clearer view of his state of mind, giving them a stronger foundation for what came next. Answers seemed just within reach, and only time would reveal whether Giovanni would face the truth of his actions or continue to fight against it. The journey toward justice for Janine hung in the balance, and the quest for understanding was fiercer than before. As the criminal case against Giovanni King unfolded, the stage was set for a significant legal battle. The prosecution built a strong case based on solid evidence, including DNA findings and witness testimonies linking Giovanni to the scene of Janine Morales' death. News of the case spread quickly through the media. Many people were anxious to see how justice would be served. Public interest grew, and the community rallied around Janine's family, demanding accountability and fairness. As the trial began, the atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with anticipation. Family members of Janine filled the seats, hoping for closure. They were solemn expressions, feeling the weight of their loss. Each day of the trial brought intense emotions, with gripping testimony painting a vivid picture of Janine's life and tragic end. The prosecution focused on how brutally Janine had died, emphasizing her final moments. Their aim was to evoke empathy and highlight the loss that had shaken the community. Contrasting the prosecution, the defense focused on presenting Giovanni as a man caught in difficult circumstances. They tried to cast doubt on the reliability of witnesses. Questions arose about the DNA evidence. Could it be contaminated? Were there any other explanations? The defense tried to shift the narrative, suggesting that Giovanni was not a monster but a misunderstood man. Many found this defense hard to believe, a tactic seen as insulting to Janine's memory and her family's grief. During the trial, a significant moment of drama occurred when a key witness, a close friend of Janine, testified. The friend described Janine's fears about being followed on the subway. This testimony raised new questions about the dangers faced by women in the city. It also connected deeply with the jury and the public. People empathized with Janine and understood her struggles. As the trial progressed, emotions ran high. Family members displayed tears of sorrow, while others showed anger. The community watched closely. Public demonstrations outside the courthouse grew, with rallies for justice that drew support from various groups. Activists spoke out, calling for changes in safety measures on public transport. The trial quickly turned into more than just a case. It became a movement demanding respect and protection for women. The drama reached a peak when Giovanni unexpectedly took the stand in his own defense. His testimony stirred mixed reactions among onlookers. Giovanni claimed he had never intended to harm Janine and spoke about feeling terrified the night of her death. Some believed him. Others saw it as an act of manipulation. The courtroom buzzed with implications about his state of mind, adding layers of complexity to the case. As the verdict approached, it felt as if the world was holding its breath. People were eager to hear the outcome. The jury deliberated for several days, weighing all the evidence laid before them. Incorporating various factors, they hoped to reach a fair conclusion reflecting the community's hope for justice. For the family of Janine, this moment was everything. A chance to honor her memory rested on that verdict. Finally, the day came when the jury returned with their decision. As they entered the courtroom, tension was at a peak. Janine's family gripped each other's hands tightly. Would justice be served? Would Giovanni King face the consequences of his actions? The moment was both hopeful and fearful. Everyone in attendance had come to witness the long-awaited truth. In that silence, the impact of the trial and the heart of the matter hung heavy in the air, marking a pivotal point for Janine's family, the community, and everyone involved. The verdict was finally announced, and the impact was immediate. Giovanni King was found guilty of the murder of Janine Morales. Gasps echoed through the courtroom, and Janine's family broke into tears of relief and sorrow at once. The news spread quickly, capturing the attention of local media and the wider public. Many followed the trial closely, eager to understand the details of the case. The charges brought against Giovanni were a reflection of the community's demand for justice. His conviction transformed this case into a high-profile one, shining a spotlight on the dangers women face in everyday environments, especially in public transport settings. In the days following the verdict, there were various reactions from the public. Some people celebrated the ruling, calling it a win for justice. They gathered outside the courthouse, holding signs that read, "Justice for Janine." These demonstrations highlighted the community's unity and the pressing need to improve safety measures for women. Local leaders spoke, urging enhancements in public transport security. They emphasized that this case should prompt change beyond the courtroom. However, not everyone felt the same. Some online forums and conspiracy theorists claimed that Giovanni was innocent. They pointed to gaps in the evidence and suggested a rush to judgment. Their ideas quickly spread, fueled by a mix of doubt and disbelief. This backlash highlighted the divided opinions that often arise in high-profile cases. Even as Giovanni faced his sentence, discussions sparked new fears among some citizens about the possibility of wrongful convictions. The media continued to cover the unfolding story. Articles provided details of the trial and the aftermath. Reporters interviewed Janine's family, sharing their grief and relief, but also their demands for systemic changes. This coverage focused on Janine's legacy and the lessons learned from the tragic events. Conversations about women's safety in urban settings escalated, and many advocacy groups emerged, driven by Janine's story. The societal impact of the case lingered as people began to engage in discussions about equality, safety, and respect for all women. Despite the fervent public interest, underlying questions remained. Were there more cases like Janine's that had not been properly investigated? Some community members felt that the criminal justice system had gaps that needed urgent attention. New fears began to emerge. Were men like Giovanni still a threat to others? Advocates argued for routine reviews of how cases involving violence against women were handled. This case shone a light on the essential need for awareness and advocacy in pressing issues surrounding safety and justice. The truth of what happened to Janine unraveled piece by piece, inviting scrutiny and open conversations. As the community continued to grapple with this recent tragedy, people found strength in unity. They began marching for safety, demanding that their voices be heard. In this way, Janine's story transformed from a tale of loss into a movement for change, promoting awareness of essential issues that affected countless lives. While Giovanni was sentenced based on strong evidence, lingering doubts about the justice system's efficacy encouraged ongoing discussions. This case proved that vigilance and advocacy were vital. It highlighted the importance of making public spaces safe for everyone. Janine's memory served as a reminder that great tragedies can spark important dialogues, leading to hope for a future where justice prevails for all victims. The journey didn't end with a verdict. It ignited a movement fueled by remembrance and the call for better, safer systems. The case of Janine Morales concluded with a sense of mixed emotions. Justice was served when Giovanni King was found guilty of her murder. While many celebrated the verdict, it did not erase the pain felt by Janine's family and friends. They could finally begin to heal, but the scars of loss remained deep. For them, the victory was bittersweet. They had fought hard for justice, but the sorrow over Janine's life cut through every moment of relief. Yet, lingering questions remained. Was this an isolated incident, or were there more threats hidden in plain sight? The community's concerns about unsafe environments became louder. This case highlighted how violence against women is often ignored. The public urged local lawmakers to consider new safety laws. Advocates called for better protection measures on public transport, hoping this would prevent future tragedies. This case became a catalyst for change as communities rallied for improvements. They wanted to ensure that women could travel without fear. Psychologically, Giovanni's actions raised complex questions. What drove him to commit such a violent act? Experts suggested that unchecked behaviors could sometimes escalate into serious violence. They raised the issue that warning signs often existed but went unnoticed. This highlighted the importance of recognizing troubling behaviors before it is too late. Understanding the psychological aspects may be key in preventing future incidents. Following the verdict, discussions surrounding mental health and support systems grew. The case created an opportunity to educate the public on recognizing signs of potential violence and seeking help. Many felt it essential to raise awareness of how societal factors could play a role in shaping actions. Could a more supportive environment help reduce violence? On a broader scale, this case sparked a lasting impact on the legal system. It prompted discussions among lawmakers about revising policies related to justice for victims and improving the safety of women. Advocates pushed for stricter legislation and more significant repercussions for offenders. It became clear that the ripple effects of Janine's case reached far beyond her tragic story. As the community continued to grieve and heal, reflections on Janine's life grew. Her legacy became a call to action, inspiring friends and loved ones to remember her not just as a victim, but as a vibrant individual with dreams. They hope to honor her memory by working to create a safer future. In conclusion, justice was served in Janine's case, but the work was far from over. New policies emerged, and community conversations flourished. However, the mystery of how to prevent such tragedies from happening again remained. Can we ever truly ensure the safety of individuals facing potential harm? The challenge lies in our shared responsibility to advocate for awareness and change while seeking to understand the complex psychology behind violence. Each of us plays a role in making our environment safer for everyone. This case stands as a reminder of what is at stake and emphasizes the need for continuous dialogue and action toward a more secure future.